Good evening. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shinelle, and I'm happy that you stayed for this final presentation, which is my innovation track. Today, we'll be looking at your pragmatic low-code journey from the wilderness into how you can supercharge your automation applications. Oh, all right, as I mentioned, my name is Chanel. I am a huge advocate for low-code, no-code applications. I hope that this can be a conversation between us so that I just don't stare at your lovely faces. Please feel free to ask me questions at the end of the presentation, but I will be asking questions throughout the team. So um, don't be surprised if I pick on you. So guy over there, yeah, I'll pick on you sometime, yeah? I really enjoy Power BI. That is my favorite tool of all time. I'm an avid Power BI fan. And my favorite thing is chicken tenders. So I eat a lot of chicken tenders with my niece. Yeah? All right. So in today's journey, we're going to look at where do you start in automation, in your automation low-code journey, and where do you want to be. And a lot of us, including myself, we start at the wilderness. And let's understand what the wilderness is. Let's understand first. Oh, my numbers look weird. Okay, let's understand first that low-code automation allows you to develop applications faster than traditional development. What this means is that, let's say you take 5 months to build an application that you can use for approvals, invoices, those kinds of things. You could build it in 1 month. So this is the real value from low-code platforms that you can build, and also they can scale. So what this means is that when you use low-code, no-code applications or platforms, you actually achieve higher return on investment in the first year of your purchase as compared to traditional development platforms. So let's start. For my rock and roll fans, welcome to the jungle. All right. Now, low code, no code applications are actually rated on a quadrant. And my specialization is in Microsoft, but I am platform agnostic. I love all low code, no code applications. But what we find is that in this case, we see Microsoft trending as one of the leaders, right? So in today's examples, I'm going to be using a lot of Power Platform examples. And just to poll the room, does anyone know the components of Power Platform? Kindly shoot. No? No? I started off with Power BI. Cheryl would have mentioned one earlier.
Power Apps,
Power Apps, who said that?
Power Pages,
Power Pages, you?
and Power something else.
Yes, yes. So congrats to you, right? So as I have a specialization in Microsoft, we have Power Pages, Power Automate, Power Apps, Power BI. Where do we start? Usually when we start, it starts really simple. And you start in a silo. I'll give you an example. My first ever low-code application was a birthday application, which basically took the information from HR and found the birthdays of everyone in the company and sent them a happy birthday email. That was the first low-code application I ever developed. That turns into, oh my goodness, I can do this too. I don't need to be a programmer. I don't need to be a developer. So what you will find is you will find a lot of employees who are not programmers who are able to develop department-specific solutions to problems that they have. However, there's no governance at this point. And as we highlighted a lot earlier, governance is key. But it is very exciting. When we start developing these siloed applications, you'll notice that the information that exists in one silo also exists in another. But at this stage in the wilderness, we don't have those connections. So you will have silos in HR, silos in accounts, silos in finance. These things don't create the central data hub that you need to build in order to enable more powerful AI agents because the data is segregated and siloed. But the deeper we look, we could actually see that there's a link between the applications that are created. Now, in the wilderness, we do exist in a peaceful state with no governance, but the excitement within the wilderness makes you feel, yes, I'm winning quick things, I'm able to see value in the little things I develop. But we have to move from that stage. And the stage that we enter next is the citizen developer. Polling the room again, anyone here ever developed their own Power Automate workflows? Anyone? Anyone ever developed their own ZPA workflows? No? Well, there are people who are in your company who do these things. And these people are usually your Susie. Susie works in accounts. Susie usually works with a lot of macros. You will find Susie in every department. Who is your Susie? The person who knows all the Excel functions, the person who knows all the calculations, the person who knows Excel back and forth. And when Susie finds your low-code automation tools, what Susie will do is she will solve her own problems. When she starts to solve her own problems, because she's a woman in technology and women in technology are amazing, you will find that this excitement is transferred into other departments. And I would be interested to know if that happened to any one of you. Oopsies. The thing about Susie is that Susie is not a developer. And because Susie is not a developer, she does not program to scale. So usually when Susie leaves, everything falls apart. And when things fall apart, no one but Susie knows how to solve the problems of the applications that she created. And I'd be interested to know if that ever happened to anyone in this room. No? Susie didn't leave and no one knew how to fix what Susie did? Yeah, no, it happens. It happens when someone who is passionate about solving problems leaves, they leave a void behind. And this is a problem with low-code, no-code platform development and automation. There's no structure, and because there's no structure, things fall apart, especially business-critical applications that the Susies created. Also, there's a bunch of problems that comes up as well. You'll find all the Susies in the company asking for a bunch of licenses, and IT doesn't know why are these people asking for these licenses? Who wants Power BI? Who wants, what's going on here? So you get a lot of license requests. And also, Susie becomes part of your shadow IT. And your shadow IT is that group of people who are aware of processes that allow you to fix problems, but no one else knows how to fix that problem. All right, so any of you, do you have any citizen developers? No? This table here, no? Table? No, I am not a citizen, I am a pro developer, honey. Right, that's right. So let's look at moving from the citizen developer to governance. And I'm happy we spoke so much about governance earlier. And the reason why is because the citizen developer and the pro developer thrives under governance. What does governance mean in the area of low-code and no-code platforms? So, as I mentioned earlier, the citizen developer does have its problems. It means that the person who develops those applications, when they leave, everything falls apart. No one could understand Susie's logic. Because only Susie, and sometimes not even Susie herself, understands Susie's logic, you have something called spaghetti architecture, which is things that aren't probably created with the proper structure. With governance, what you do is you introduce frameworks that allow the Susies of the world, as well as the Daves, the Troys, the Nevilles, to be able to develop applications using policies that will allow them to have a safe playground. All right? What does this mean? It means that your citizen developers and your pro developers have structured environments, which means that it reduces spaghetti architecture. You have data loss prevention policies, which means that the connectors and the applications that they can build are built in a way that it's reusable. And then you have a center of excellence, which allows you to create standards to replicate those same applications. Governance provides the safe playground and the trusted tools that allow your developers to innovate. It is not a blocker. Now, once you introduce your governance platform and your citizen developers and your pro developers work in tandem, in this case, I consider myself a pro low-code, no-code developer. So in this case, this is where you will introduce the Fujitsus and the other technology companies, but preferably Fujitsu because it's for Fujitsu event. All right, when you enter this stage, moving past governance where you have your frameworks, what you find is that you have a clear division of labor. The citizen developers are able to still solve their problems, whereas the pro developers, such as myself and my team, we create the integrations, we create the structures, we create the environments, we create the space that you need to enable your citizen developers. Let's look at an example. So HSE is near and dear to my heart. Why? Because I've found that HSE has repeatable rule-based high volume transactions, which is perfect in this case for automation and low-code, no-code platforms. Things like incident reporting, things like near-risk evaluations, those things are repeatable and highly easy to replicate in low-code, no-code platforms. Finance also has a few other use cases that we can use, but I'm using a HSE focus in this case. The citizen developers help create the experience that they want their users to have. So for example, if I were to walk off the stage and were to stumble, the citizen developers will be a part of the process as the app that is developed in your low-code, no-code platform. And the pro developers, moi, we will build the intelligent core. This is where we structure the data hub, or in this case, because I'm Microsoft focused, the data verses that capture data in a way that can be then used for analytics in the future and predictions. Right? This stage to me is the most powerful stage. The reason why is because this is the stage where we break down silos and we have combinatorial innovation. What does this mean? This means that we use low-code, no-code applications and platforms to start to bring applications together. So for example, my colleagues who use Oracle, if you have an Oracle database, however, you want to use Azure Cognitive Services, but you also want to connect that to an IoT device, low-code, no-code applications allow you to create that bridge between all of the applications that you use, right? So the example that I have is, let's say, for example, you have a sensor, and that sensor is connected to an API, which my friend Obika would have illustrated earlier. We connect those sensors, let's say, for example, to an AI builder that allows you to interpret the root cause of any failures. And then we connect that to Power BI, which allows you to create reports and dashboards. Think about the power of the combination of technologies as opposed to technologies siloed. It's really a beautiful thing. Right? Low-code, no-code platforms also allow you to use pre-built connectors. These connectors would enable you to use the APIs of other services with security already built into them. Of course, if you want to test these connectors, you could call Obika. But the beauty of this is that you don't need to program your APIs from scratch. If you want to connect to SQL in the cloud, you can connect to your SQL in the cloud to your SAP, your success factors, your LMSs. So again, the power of combinatorial innovation is that you use technologies that you already have so that you don't have to recreate the same process in another technology. All right, this is where we would like to help you on your low-code, no-code automation journey. So let's look at the journey from where some of you may start and where some of you would like to go. So typically, persons exist within this realm here, which is the wilderness and the citizen developer revolution. Where Fujitsu would add value is we bring the governance, which allows you to create the safe playground for your citizen developers and your pro devs. And pro devs can exist within your own institutions as well. And when that safe space exists, we can help you understand the value of your combinatorial innovation. What can you link together to create the ecosystem of data and applications that will ultimately bring value to not only your company, but to your customers as well. Right? Something I'd like to point out is that Cheryl Curtin-Peter from Central Bank earlier, she would have mentioned that we worked very closely with them. Now, what we noticed is that within that company, they had a lot of citizen developers with a lot of ideas. And we did not want to railroad their ideas with our experience. So one of the things that we really treasure and that we really enjoy is working with the citizen developers to see their point of view because they know the problems we don't. So we work with your citizen developers. We standardize your environments. A lot of people think that low code, no code doesn't need different environments. Let's say, for example, you have your UAT, your dev, your test, your production. You still need those things. Those things are an important part of the application development lifecycle. So we ensure that those structures still exist within your low-code, no-code platforms. We also help you architect these applications for scale. Now, I know a friend of mine in the room would have a question about that, so I'm excited to see what he comes up with. But you can scale low-code, no-code applications. Low-code, no-code applications could also exist on-premise. So how do you scale it on-premise on the cloud? For those of you who are more, even if your posture is internal and you want to have on-premise applications, you can also scale it there as well. And we implement proactive governance policies that help you de-risk your innovation. In summary, our expertise combined with your know-how about the pain points in your business, we create a framework in collaboration with you where we create your data architecture and modeling. We implement the application lifecycle management in a structured, governed deployment. We optimize performance and we ensure that security and governance is embedded into your low-code, no-code application environment. All right, so let's look at how this comes back to some numbers that we looked at earlier. If you have an environment whereby the connectors that you use have been tested and have the correct DLP policies, then your citizen developers don't have to play around and test around. So it can help them develop faster in the safe playground. It also helps your pro devs develop faster because now they have, apart from development to UAT to production, right? And also this will help you in turn receive the 97% ROI in under a year because your applications are developed in a governed safe space. Thank you, and I will now open the room for questions. I hope that the questions I can answer. Yeah. So any questions from any teams? I'm really interested to know though, how many of you know the citizen developers in your companies? Do you know who they are? Do you know how to identify them? No? No Susies? I know there's a Susie from that table over there, but it's really important that you figure out who these citizen developers are because those persons help innovate within the company because they know the problems that exist at a ground level better than anyone else does. Yeah? Yeah?
Yeah. Hi, Dale from Unit Trust.
Mm-hmm.
At the corporation, our citizen developers are somewhat sanctioned. We know who they are. We actually put them in positions.
I'm struggling to hear you a little bit.
I'm sorry. Any better?
Yes, please.
Okay, perfect. So at the Unit Trust Corporation, we know who our citizen developers are. In fact, we have a distributed model with respect to development using Power Automate, for example, and we have these power users who that is their job, right? So they're not really citizen developers. They're actually pro developers distributed throughout the organization. And from an IT point of view, we try to apply some of the governance principles and try to manage that development effort centrally, although they are distributed.
So that sounds to me that amongst your pro developer community, that you should actually enable something called a center of excellence. Do you have that currently?
I'm not sure if we call it that.
Okay. Well, what that means is, let's say, for example, I'm sure amongst the things that they create, one of them will be, let's say, an approval workflow. Now, within that approval workflow, there's a standard you should follow for your company. That standard will include things like what happens if the approval goes to someone on vacation, what happens if you want to reassign your approval, what happens if the approval workflow fails, what happens if it times out. So those are the kind of policies that you will create in your center of excellence that will help all your pro developers when they create that approval workflow, that it is standardized. Now, I am using the term center of excellence because I have, as I mentioned, a Microsoft background, but it doesn't need to be called that. What I think would be useful to your team of developers is that they create the set of standards for each and every workflow that they develop and actually create the template. So the next time a new pro developer joins the company, they just need to copy and paste that template. And then they can build upon it. It actually allows them to, if you, for example, you take 2 days to build that approval workflow, it will take about 5 minutes to replicate when you create that standard. Yeah, did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. It wasn't really a question, just sharing what we do, but you did hit the nail on the head with respect to some of the challenges that we have. And we're trying to build those standards and learn as we develop.
Yeah. Thank you for asking. Any more questions? Yeah.
Or low-code, no-code applications that are developed that potentially could face the internet for external access. Maybe I'm a customer and you want to push something out to me. How do you recommend that the company goes about doing it from a secure fashion? Because obviously that could create a weakness. Okay,
so what I would recommend is that you don't treat your low-code, no-code application separately from your traditional development platforms. And the reason why is because you still need to stress test, you still need to pen test, you still need to load test those applications. Now, those applications do already have built-in throttle limitations. So they already have safeguards built in, whereas in the traditional development model, you have to create the throttle limits for those applications. But I would recommend that you still do the same test that you would run, let's say, for example, on a PHP framework. If you're using web applications, the same testing, you need to do that. So for example, Power Pages is a good one. Power Pages allows you to have public-facing low-code, no-code applications. So let's say, for example, you want to sign up for your ID card or sign up for a new driver's license. You can use Power Pages for that. However, within Power Pages, there are built-in security measures. Does that mean that I don't test? I don't think so. So I would still enable the same policies and the same guidelines as I would if I were developing a custom PHP framework. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Any more? Yes. Sir William. Sir.
Okay, so how does authentication for public-facing Power Pages work? Because most of the Microsoft stack is backed by licensing for users. How do I authenticate? Or is it that I don't build applications that I publish publicly that require authentication? How do we handle that?
So the question there is, how do we handle authentication in a solution similar to Power Pages? And I'm saying similar to because other applications, there are similar applications to Power Pages. So number one, there's a licensing factor. So within Power Pages, you can purchase Power Pages with authentication and without authentication. Power Pages without authentication are like brochureware sites. Things like, hey, this is our company and we sell frogs and come and buy our frogs. But there's no login required. But then there's Power Pages with authentication whereby you can authenticate with using different services. So you can authenticate with your Gmail account, your social media account, or even your company account, especially if that account is a Microsoft account. Now, I mention licensing because there are two different licensing models, the Power Pages with authentication and without. But you can also utilize the Azure Identity Service if you want users to authenticate and they're not using an external service like Gmail, Facebook, etc. And of course, that is another licensing conversation, but it does allow you to use identity management from Microsoft, and it also allows you to use your external applications like Facebook, your social media connectors. Yeah? Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Sorry, just one more. Don't want to hog it. Return on investment for Power Platform. We're talking about savings on development of applications, but that translates into a little bleeding into license consumption, and also accessing the additional services that it enables also increases my overall footprint of cost. How do we manage that? And I'm asking from a perspective where I have 1,000 and something users,
right?
That have Microsoft accounts of one form or another, whether it's email, E5s, E3s, E1s, and then I have maybe another few thousands again who don't have anything.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to empower those people to work and exchange information. Is it? Yeah.
So that would make me ask, what are you using the platform to automate? And the reason why I can use Power Platform to ask employees to order lunch. And if I use Power Platform to ask employees to order lunch and each employee needs a license in Power Platform to order lunch, is there value that I get from that process? And to me, the answer is no. You will have employees who will have a record of all the lunch that they order in the company. But is it really valuable to my overall bottom line? No. So in a case like that, I would ask the question, is my process valuable to me, whereby automating would result in some return of value? So I can also say that, and I'm going back to HSEC here because I see a lot of value in automating processes within that realm, HSE and risk. So is it valuable to be able to find trends of accidents and near misses and security protocols and near deaths within my company? Yes, there is, because that is the value of saving human life. Is that something I would want to automate? Yes. So to me, it comes down to what is the process, and does that process add value to your bottom line? If it doesn't, then I personally would not invest in automating the low-level processes. Does that answer the question or no?
So Shinelle, hi, good afternoon, everyone. If I were to just add to what you were stating just now as well, because the question also involved investments, the cost for licensing and optimizing all those things, right? So when you are looking to onboard these applications and you're looking to introduce the process and all of that, the ROI is not always just on the cost for the licenses versus the number of staff you have and so on. You also have to look to see what ease you are getting within the business through the automation. So one of the processes that you would have automated might free up some staff from doing something or the other, right? And you get your return that way, right? Now, how quantifiable that is, that's a study that you will probably have to do based on the problems that you're trying to solve with the applications. But to Shinelle's point, you have to look at processes or areas in the business where you will get the most value, whether it's from a human perspective, whether it is from a time perspective, whatever it is, and then that's the strategy that you got to use to deploy your processes and determine how you're going to use your licenses, etc. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you do have a challenge because you're saying that you have a subset of users that aren't licensed that you will love to onboard, and then you have another subset. So I guess that's a different conversation around optimizing your licenses based on the roles of the users in the organization, and then seeing what services you can get via a different, more affordable licensing package or whatever the case is to achieve what you want. Conversation that I think we should have. You have another question here from David?
Yeah.
Yeah, but to his question, do I need a one-to-one license in order for the users to use the application that has been developed? Or do I only need a license for the developers?
Okay. You want to answer that?
Could you rephrase it, please? I didn't quite.
Okay, so we're building an application and it's for persons to order lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to license all the persons logging into the app?
No, you don't.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically to those.
Oh,
Okay.
I see.
Okay.
So in that case, you would need a developer license, but it also, each platform has its own model. Some platforms have a model whereby the license is for the application itself, whereas the users don't need a license. Some platforms have a model where you need a license for the developer and the users don't need a license. And some platforms would require all users, regardless of if they are developers or users, to have a license. But as I could speak specifically on Power Platform, is that the licensing model there is that you can have a license for the application alone and your user base don't need licenses. Yeah?
There's a follow-up. Hold on.
Excuse me?
That's if my use case does not require authentication, or I don't need to know who they are when they are interacting with the system.
It depends. If it's internal, then they would not need a license. But if it's external using Power Pages, then there's a possibility that they would need one. But they would only need authentication.
Sorry, if I might ask, how would we know who it is that's using it?
So again, it comes back to the package. Within Power, and I'm being specific to Power Pages here. Within Power Pages, because it connects, the authentication would use either the Azure Identity Service, then you will know who is using your platform. Yeah. Yeah.
So it sounds like you have a use case here that we need to, yeah?
It sounds like it. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah?
I just want to say, I think we at the corporation, I definitely want to seek you out because like my friend asking the question and your answer had to do with frameworks. I myself am very concerned about the methodologies that different people are using to build Power applications.
Yeah.
And I believe there ought to be some standard across the organization, right?
Yeah.
And like other types of traditional development, PHP, etc., within C# and so on, we could utilize a known framework. So we know what we are building, how we're building it. So when we share source code and stuff, people are not surprised at what they are seeing.
Yeah.
The Power apps that I'm seeing that we have built, they all look very different. I don't know what conformity there needs to be across these applications. So I don't know what I don't know. I just know what I need.
No, it could be very wild. And that's a really important point to note. It's a simple thing like a naming convention for your workflows and your applications. Some people just name their workflows test 1. And you would have 10 test 1s because all your citizen developers are using the word test 1. And what happens is when a workflow fails and you as the admin are trying to figure out why the service failed, you can't find it because you have 20 test 1s in your environment. And it's a real problem, which is why governance is important. Yeah, any other questions? No? All right, as Obika said, going once, going twice. Well, I'm happy. Thank you for your questions and for the engagement. Thank you for attending. I believe this is the final track of the day. I am happy to answer any questions. I'll stick around for a bit. Dale, I look forward to any conversation. William, well, you know. So, fun fact, I know William for over 8 years now. And I actually look up to William because he's a developer who would have taught me a lot of practices. So I just want to, sorry, I was actually afraid of his questions the most. So, but thank you everyone for joining and have a safe trip home. And yeah, contact us if you have any questions you want answered. Yeah, thank you.